So I'm pretty sure making a minute and a half video on Twitter is basically cheating. But I'll let it slide and I'll play along just this once because I got some time to kill. And honestly, your reaction is a very common one. It's a very normal reaction, but it is full of these pitfalls and fallacies. So maybe if I clear it up for you, that can help you, and I can, maybe sort it out for some other people as well. So let's go through it step by step, shall we?
So here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you're into Magic the Gathering, Overwatch, or any other subject. If there's something that interests you and you want to pursue that, and let's say you go into a Twitch chat, for example, and you see sexist remarks or anything that's equally offensive, you shouldn't let those comments deter you from pursuing your interest because...
So the problem here is that you're assuming that I'm already interested in Magic. That is not necessarily the case. I agree. If you are interested in something and passionate about it, you should not let trolls on the internet deter you. Don't listen to what they say. You do you. The problem is that this the example that I gave that you're responding to is one where that person doesn't know if they're passionate about Magic yet, right? They have a vague interest in Magic and are pursuing that. Passion isn't something that you're born with. It doesn't just happen genetically, automatically. I didn't come out of the womb loving Magic the Gathering. I was interested in strategy stuff because of the way that I was brought up in my genes and stuff. And then I was introduced to the game at the right time in my life and, my mood. And I was introduced to it the right way. And then I was given the privilege of pursuing it. And, all of these factors add up to then becoming passionate about Magic. If I didn't make it over one of those hurdles, then I never get to the point that I'm passionate where now I can choose to ignore the haters, right? If I opened that first booster and all the cards were covered in dog poo, I'd be like, the cards are covered in dog poo! I'm not playing this game, and then it wouldn't happen, right? So, it's, this example is somebody who maybe already knows Magic and likes Magic and is thinking about getting into the competitive side, and then sees this toxic behavior and is like, ooh, no, okay, I'll stay on the kitchen table, or I'll, play Hearthstone at home so I don't have to deal with these trolls.
Those are anonymous people on the internet, and they use that tool of anonymity, to be shitheads on the internet. That's kind of like one of the cons to the internet and the cons to anonymity in of itself. And yeah, it sucks. It sucks that it happens, but that's just a thing.
You even say it sucks. It sucks that it's a thing. It sucks that it happens, but it's a thing. Why is it a thing? Why does it have to be a thing? This is called a default bias. Because that's the way it is. That's the only way that it can be, or that's the way it's going to stay. I disagree. I strive for more. I think that we can do better as a community. And I think that trying to improve and be better is not only better for the people that interact with it within the context of that hypothetical that you're responding to, but also better for us as a community and as individuals. So yeah, to sum up that point, just because it's shitty doesn't... Because it's shitty, we should change it. Not because it's shitty, I guess it's shitty.
You can't really move past that. So to say that just because other people have to say mean things or sexist or rude things on the internet and I don't want to pursue my interest because of that...
Not an interest yet.
That's a horseshit excuse, right? Like, let's say I want to get into cooking.
It's actually a pretty good excuse, right? If something is toxic, if a community is toxic, if people prove themselves demonstrably in front of your eyes that they will antagonize you, you don't then do that thing. That's not a horseshit excuse. That's a very reasonable and probably correct response.
And I watch a cooking stream, and I look on there, and there's a dude that's cooking, and it's just like, oh, that guy's really hot, or whatever, or man, he can like rub my meat all night, or some bullshit like that. That's not going to stop me from wanting to cook, right? Because I want to fucking cook.
So, a couple things here. It's actually two forms of sort of false equivalency. One being in the social construct of comparing magic and cooking. Cooking is ubiquitous, right? It's a part of life. You're growing up, your parents probably cooked, and then maybe you had a home ec class, and you know, there's a million billion TV shows about cooking, and you move out of your parents' house and you starve to death if you don't cook, right? Cooking is a huge part of just living. So, of course, you're gonna, if that's what you're passionate about, you're gonna know if you're passionate about that or not. I'm talking about magic being this tiny, tiny subsection of a corner of society, right? Cooking, magic. So, there's all these huge barriers. You have to even come across the game. You have to come across it in a positive way. You have to be, you know, introduced to it in the right way. You have to have the right background and mindset for it to click for you, for you to enjoy it. And then even beyond that, then you have to spend the time, invest the time in learning the game, realizing that there are more levels and strategy, and that it's a fairly deep game rather than just, you know, this fantasy stuff that most people are intro to the game on. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, well, maybe I can do this competitive stuff. You know, oh my God, there's tournaments. You know, you don't start there. 99% of people don't start there. So then, after you've gotten past all of these hurdles, you then are at the hurdle of, I'm going to look into the competitive side, and you open up a Twitch stream, and that's what you see. You know, you falter at the last hurdle for no reason, right? The scope, the societal scope is so narrow, and there's such a massive bottleneck of just all of these hurdles, you know, eliminating more and more people, that once you get to that point where somebody is familiar with the game, likes it, and is interested in pursuing competitive, that's such a tiny, tiny subsection. It's crucial that we let all of those people through. We don't put one last hurdle and eliminate, you know, 30% of them or whatever the number is. That's important. The other false equivalency is making a comment on a cooking video featuring a male versus, you know, a live stream with a female. I guess there's actually two more, so it's three false equivalencies tied up into one. A cooking video versus a streamed match of Magic. If somebody makes a cooking video, then they have control over their product. They are the one putting this out into the world, and if people troll them, then they can control, you know, if they don't care, then they can choose not to care. But if they do care, then they have the ability to delete comments or turn off comments or whatever, respond in whatever way they see fit. Being on a Magic stream, you don't have any of those controls. This is something that you were thrown into. You were just playing a Magic tournament, and now you're catapulted in front of thousands of people with no access to a capacity to respond or interact, and that's the you know, you have to take that abuse. So not the same there either. And the third false equivalency is male versus female, which that's kind of a deeper, you know, feminist subject that I don't have time to go totally through right now. I would recommend checking out I think it's called Damsels in Distress, the feminist frequency video, talks about how the dude in distress doesn't make it okay to have the damsel, because the dude is just a subversion of the trope. The trope, that doesn't change the fact that the trope itself is damaging, right? There's no stereotype that the male is weak and needs to be saved, but there is one for females. The toxic comment thing is kind of the same thing, right? Like, for myself, for example, if I'm playing a match of Magic and somebody calls me attractive, then that's probably, I mean, it's inappropriate. I agree, that's an inappropriate time, it's an inappropriate thing to say. But that's probably the one time that I'm going to be called attractive, that day, weekend, week, month, multiple months, right? So it's kind of not really an issue, right? Like, first of all, I'm going to take it as flattering, but even if it was a negative experience for me to be called attractive, it doesn't happen. You know, it's so rare that I can kind of brush it off. For a woman, that's like the 30th time they've gotten it that morning. See the difference? There is that stereotype of a woman is a physical being. They are judged on their appearance, and that's something that you are upholding by allowing those toxic comments. Men are not so much judged by their appearance, and so you're not upholding anything toxic. You're just being inappropriate. See the difference? Hopefully you do.
Doesn't matter what other people have to say on the internet to this other person just because they're using the power of anonymity. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it's immature of you as a person to decide whether or not you don't want to further your interests just because of what shitheads have to say on the internet.
It does make sense. What you're saying makes total sense, and like I said up top, it is a fairly common, normal response, but hopefully I broke down sort of the reasons that it doesn't hold up under scrutiny, and hopefully you learned something. My only response at the end there is, let me listen to it again. It says it's a bad excuse.
Whether or not you don't want to further your interests just because of what shitheads have to say, that makes any sense to you.
Does.
But it's immature of you as a person to decide whether or not you don't want to further your interests just because of what shitheads have to say on the internet.
To say that it's an immature response, again, is, I guess I'm repeating myself here, but it's really a reasonable and totally sane response. And calling somebody immature for having that response is needlessly aggressive, I would say. First of all, not aggressive, judgmental. It's a judgmental thing to do, right? Oh, you're not willing to throw yourself into the fire? Pfft, pretty immature, if you ask me. It's like, well, nobody asked you, and no, it's not that immature. And secondly, maturity doesn't really have that much to do with any of this in the first place, because this isn't about the woman's response, right? Why are we? I don't want to use the phrase victim blaming, but why are we victim blaming here? Why is she immature for not wanting to play? Why is it not they're immature for being assholes, and we should stop them so that she doesn't even have to decide whether to make the mature decision, in your opinion, or not? She should never have been put in that position in the first place. They're the ones being immature, so let's deal with them.